Hey everyone, Pugs here with two new reviews for y'all. Today I'm covering Nasty Patty and Idiot Box, some real and utter bangers of episodes, if their reception is anything to go by. These are two of the most well-known episodes of the show, and it's exciting to be reviewing them here for y'all today. As always, just gotta say a quick thank you to everyone who's been watching, liking, commenting, the whole shebang. I really appreciate y'all. And yeah, now let's just get right into it. Beginning today's deep dive into iconicism is Nasty Patty, an episode I really like, because you guys know I just like to say my opinions up front, and I don't think that me liking this episode is something that should be very surprising. So let's talk about this episode just so we can be clear on how unsurprising it actually is. Nasty Patty starts off pretty well. I love how very non-juvenile this show can be, and is in the case of the plot driver for this episode. Like, what kid even knows the ins and outs of health inspections? And honestly, I think this speaks to this show's heavily underrated capacity of being able to take things that kids may not be familiar with and portray them in a way that doesn't necessarily teach kids what something is, but makes it so that they're still able to follow the plot. The episode doesn't go out of its way to say, like, a health inspector assesses the conditions of a food and serving environment to confirm that they are sanitary and safe for food production. Rather, it just gives us enough information through the dialogue to know that the health inspector is someone that the Krusty Krab does not want to upset, or they'll shut the restaurant down. This episode's topic of the day being an example of this kind of capacity is yet another demonstration of the charm of SpongeBob SquarePants, and we're about a minute into this thing. We move on from the episode's good beginning to the turning point of the plot, which is the TV news report. Mr. Krabs' reaction is hilarious, and sampled in one of the best YouTube poops of all time, I might add. SpongeBob's reaction is similarly hilarious. The two plan a most devious plot with that Nasty Patty, which we are given such glorious visuals of in both the making of and finished product, showcasing the artistic skills of the show's painters as well. And then, of course, things get even funnier once we find out that the guy Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob were reveling in the misery of was the real health inspector all along, which then makes things even funnier once the health inspector chokes and Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob think they killed him with their foul creation. I love their screaming, followed by the double check, followed by more screaming, just too freaking funny. Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob make to bury the body because Mr. Krabs is many things, but a man prepared to go to jail is not one of them. During this scene, and throughout the episode as a whole, we get more slapstick with the poor inspector as well. Seriously, that guy goes through it in this episode. It's funny watching Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob try to keep this whole thing under wraps, especially once the pressure really starts to get to them with the police showing up. Even I was tricked for a second when the police first showed up. I thought the two were caught. But of course, what we do get is even funnier. The nervous laughing in the police car, the painfully obvious body in the hat, and especially once we reach the climax of the episode with Mr. Krabs proclaiming that ice is just a myth. Perhaps that's what we'll be telling our grandkids in 50 years. Okay, yeah, that was a sour joke, and there's still hope. Let me move past that. The expressions in this episode, especially in this last section, are just amazing. I love how the police are completely unbothered in this episode too, a great juxtaposition to Mr. Krabs' and SpongeBob's utter freakout in their presence. The police are also just not that great at their jobs, given that while at the Krusty Krab they receive a report about two people burying a body at the place they presumably just picked SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs up at. Perhaps this is a commentary on the inefficiency of our police system, though no commentary on that would be complete without addressing the true purpose of policing, which is, as we all should know, wait. I'm going on a soapbox tangent, aren't I? Damn it. Okay, back to the episode now. Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob are also not very smart in this episode, but in a funny way. If they left the health inspector at the road, even after he slid down to the cop car, the cops probably wouldn't have noticed considering what I just said about them, but that would have caused more problems later, I suppose. Anyway, none of this is critical. I think the lack of brains in this episode just makes everything 10 times funnier, and I'm just one of those people who likes to explain the joke. The ending of the episode continues the great and funny streak this episode has going for it. The poor health inspector gets beat up by the cops thinking that he's a zombie of all things, and then when he's finally realized to be a normal, alive health inspector by all parties involved, he ends the episode on a positive note by giving the Krusty Krab a truly generous passing rating. Personally, I'd be much pettier than this guy is. The first time I actually want a Bikini Bottom to act like an asshole. Well, not really, because then I'd actually be annoyed. But y'all know what I mean. Damn. Anyway, even if the health inspector is generous and kind, he can't escape one last slapstick joke with the door hitting him as the episode closes, and the narrator says what we're all thinking at this point, that everyone is an idiot. Yes, they are all idiots, French narrator. Yes, they are. So, I somehow managed to refrain from saying this while I was half recapping, half giving my chronological thoughts on the episode, but now that I'm giving some general and random thoughts, I can finally say it. This episode has got the atmosphere down pat. It's palpable in this episode the second Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob are headed to the cemetery. Just look at these amazing backgrounds. Just think of the color palettes. I'm so passionate about SpongeBob background art. And this atmosphere is so clearly cultivated purposely given how this episode strays toward an almost noir tone at times. You know, I wonder what they did to get the footage of the rain at Bikini Atoll. I mean, I can assume that they just, dumped water on their model island, but I want to know if that was 100% the case. I'm interested in behind-the-scenes stuff like that. Now's about the time that I sum up this episode. Nasty Patty is a really great and well-crafted episode that without a doubt belongs in my amazing tier, and potentially even in my top 5 episodes of the season. I'll just pretend like I don't already have that ranking ready to go. I've got no problems with this episode whatsoever. Not even a tiny minor one that doesn't even count. It's hilarious, it's engaging, it never dulls, not even once, and it is an excellent example of SpongeBob SquarePants doing some of the things it does at its best. I also adore how macabre? How do you even say that word? I don't know. Whatever that word is, the whole episode is. That gives Nasty Patty a standout quality as well. And so Nasty Patty clearly is being put in my amazing tier, where I'm giving it a 9.5 out of 10. Giving us no room to breathe after the banger that was Nasty Patty, we've got Idiot Box, yet another certified SpongeBob SquarePants classic. Perhaps even more so than Nasty Patty, if we're being honest, because everybody and their mom knows about imagination. Idiot Box is another one of those episodes that frequently makes it onto the kind of best episode list that I had linked in the previous video, and it's easy to see why. While, spoiler alert, this episode does not quite make my own top 10 or top 20 list, if I ever got around to ranking like that, I can still understand why people love this episode so much. So let's get to discussing it. This episode gets right into it with Squidward acting on behalf of the audience as he looks on in confusion as SpongeBob and Patrick do a little dance in the front lawn. A dance we soon learn is them stimming. What? I'm saying it like it is. Anyway, we, like Squidward, get more questions than answers when the pair of best friends pick up a huge-ass TV just to throw it straight in the garbage, which was a hilarious visual, by the way. Yes, comedic size differences, a classic. Because of course SpongeBob and Patrick have no use for such a silly device as a television, they just want the box. Even 20 years later, this plot remains charming and actually relevant, but I'll leave everything I want to say on that for the end. Moving on. One cannot talk about Idiot Box without mentioning the ever-iconic imagination moment. Just imagine me spreading my hands like SpongeBob does, because that's what I'm doing when I say that. Anyway, this moment, SpongeBob's support of gay rights, a meme of a bygone era, and just a funny joke on its own, is really the crux of the entire episode, an emblem of what this episode's trying to say. That we should all tap into that inner child and embrace our imaginations is a very wholesome and important message, one that completely makes sense for this show to say. This show is literally all about being in touch with one's inner child. That's why SpongeBob is the protagonist. That's why that child-adult line I've discussed time and time again even exists. Anyway, the message of this episode is just as relevant today, perhaps in a different way. It's not necessarily that we're all abandoning our inner child, though that is still for sure a thing that's happening. But it's also that we're all always searching for something to distract ourselves, something that social media, streaming services, and phone companies love because they get to sell. But imagine, pun not intended, if we all just used our own imaginations instead of these gadgets. That's what this episode, in its own way, kind of purports. Now, there is, of course, the not quite irony, but that's the word I'll use, in an episode of television telling us we don't need television, but I think the episode is aware of this irony. Anyway, Idiot Box is a true testament to the writing, sound design, and voice acting in the show, given how many parts of this episode are dedicated to just a single shot of the box, and how the episode is still hilarious. Also, don't know if y'all just heard that email notification. Sorry. Anyway, it's honestly impressive how many jokes this episode manages to get in, and they all hit, and none at the expense of the plot. I love that this episode challenges viewers to use their own imaginations as SpongeBob and Patrick play in the box. It's clever, strengthens the episode's message, and makes the episode super engaging and enjoyable, as we get plenty of humor while we imagine what SpongeBob and Patrick's scenarios look like. Squidward's increasing desperation and curiosity as to just what exactly is going on in that box is also a great source of more traditional entertainment, and by that I mean it's not us looking at a shot of a box and imagining what's going on inside. I love the section of the episode of Squidward trying to escape boxes by going on TV and utterly failing. Something metaphor about the inferiority of media to imagination. I'm probably looking too into that, but who cares? I've got my critical hat on, and looking too into things is what I do. Skipping on over to the end of Idiot Box, I love the ending of this episode. It's gratifying to see Squidward, after so much struggle and frustration, finally start to use his own imagination. This is especially true, seeing as Squidward is supposed to be representing the adults that would benefit from the messages I've been talking about earlier. Because we can't forget that this is, above all, a children's show. The imagination stuff is meant to encourage children to use their imaginations, and not lose them, but it's also meant to be directed at us adults as well. It's the brilliant crossover appeal of SpongeBob SquarePants at work yet again. And while Squidward does end up getting thrown in the dumps because of his imagination, it's just the setup to a hilarious stinger that wraps this episode nicely with a bow on top. Squidward had to get just a little bit of comeuppance for his sneering at SpongeBob and Patrick throughout the episode. Idiot Box is a great example of SpongeBob SquarePants' crossover appeal. I think by just watching the episode with a little bit of a critical eye, you can see the recipe for the show's success, or at least one of the recipes, all in this episode. You've got the comedy, you've got the dynamic between the Golden Trio, representing the child-adult line that's all over this episode, and you've got messages that mean similar yet different things to kids versus adults. It's layered, clever writing. I also think that this episode is an adorable showing for SpongeBob and Patrick. Anyway, as you can see, I've got no problems with Idiot Box. In any other season, other than Season 2 probably, this episode would be in my top 5. However, Season 3 has so many excellent episodes, including my top 2, maybe 3 of the entire show. So it's up against some stiff competition, but it really is just so good. That's why I'm putting it in my amazing tier, where it comes in with a score of 9.3 out of 10. As always, I'll be ending this review with some closing thoughts of mine. I had a lot to say about each of these episodes individually, and I wanted to close things out today by offering up a discussion of these episodes together. So, I think that Nasty Patty and Idiot Box are very complementary episodes, making them a great pair to watch back to back. Nasty Patty showcases SpongeBob's adult side, both the character and the show, given the subject matter. Idiot Box, on the other hand, is all about telling everyone, even adults, to embrace their inner child. I can even see the complementary nature of these two episodes down to the visuals. Nasty Patty spends a lot of its run with rainy, dark night scenes, and it also has some dramatic lighting throughout. Idiot Box is a much brighter episode, taking place during a sunny day. So that's an interesting, what would you call that? I was going to say parallel, but that doesn't quite work. Perpendicular? That was a joke. Anyway, that's an interesting contrast between the two. I like when sister episodes have some kind of relationship like this. Alright, that's all I really wanted to say this time, so I'll go ahead and close things out here, and I will see you all in the next review.